Oh, hello. It's cold out there. You better come in, but wipe your feet. Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. I finished building this about a year ago, so I thought it's about time I gave you an updated tour because a lot's changed in a year. We'll start this end because that's where the main workbench is. So we'll start, as you come in the door, you've got the miter saw station. I've got my tool chest here with organiser on top with most of little hand tool bits. I've got a couple of drawers here, marking and measuring in there, random junk in there. Here I've got the DeWalt, it is the DWS 777, and this has the internal sliding rails, so it doesn't take up too much room. I've got rails on here with stops on both sides. It makes it very handy for doing repeatable cuts. So down under the miter saw station, I store some bits. I've got the Swan 30 litre compressor here. I've got my stool I made. Let's get it out of the way so we can see. I've got my pneumatic dust extractor and a dust cyclone separator. And then I've got a stack of Stanley organisers. These are the shallow ones down here. So on this back wall I've got some storage. I've got all my most used screws there. I had put them into Stanley boxes, but I find actually it's so much easier to be able to read the labels, just pick up the box you need and bring it to the bench. Sanding discs, and then I've got a couple of things of tape. Too many rolls of tape. So here we've got the main workbench. Ply top with the holes in, made with the Axminster UJK path guide system. I like having this much of a work surface, but I don't really use the holes much, and I find these cubbies just get filled up with dust. I put junk in, and it also means you can't get tall things under the bench because the bench is that deep. So I think I'll make a new bench next year, so maybe a video on that. Above it we've got my chisel racks, which I did a video on as well. So this is all going to be changing, I reckon, in the new year. So I forgot to mention this bench also has the router insert in it. So if I change this bench, I'm going to need a new router table of some kind. So under the main workbench, it's a bit of dead space really. So hopefully the new bench will do better. I've got a drawer unit. I've got a tool chest, which I keep all my more mechanics tools, spanners, sockets, so on. And I've got my little drill on wheels, which I get out when I need. So at the end of the workbench, I've got my table saw. Now, I haven't had this long and it's lower than my bench. So really, I want to raise this up and then I can get rid of this extension wing and have the bench as the outfeed table. And that will make it more practical to use and save me lots of space. On the wall above it, I've got my hammer and mallet rack, which there was a video about last year. And yeah, I'm really pleased with that. It's a very good way of storing them. Shelves running all around the workshop. And I thought they were a good idea at the time, but really they've just turned into a dumping ground. So I'm not sure they were a good idea, so I might change that. So just at the end of the hammer rack, I've got my Maker Central 2019 Jimmy Dresser poster with my emergency whiskey supply inside. So here in the back corner I've got my Metabo planer thicknesser, my Metabo extractor, and then I've got this dustbin that works as a separator for the chips. The extractor and this go together. The extractor only gets used on this machine, and I wheel it out when I need it. So the other thing on the back wall is my Record Power BS 250 bandsaw. I keep a 1/4 inch blade on this for doing curves. It's on a stand so I can just roll it out into the middle of the room when I need it. And there's a bit of storage underneath it, and I've got my Triton bobbin sander under there. So tucked away in the corner I've got a little metal cabinet with some odds and ends in and a little Bisley filing drawer for some small bits. And then I've got my Windy Smith stove. This is great for several reasons. I can get rid of all my scrap wood and it keeps me warm, and I'm so pleased I have it. Otherwise I probably wouldn't want to be out here today. I've got a little fan that just distributes the heat around the workshop nicely. On the wall behind the stove is where I keep all my clamps. Well, actually I might have a few more really long ones in the garage, but they don't get used very often. On the wall here, a couple more things I made last year. First aid kit, bits falling out of it, which I've not needed yet. Touch wood, and my rack to keep my hand planes on. So under the hand plane rack is the bench I built a couple of years ago. Nice and solid. There's a bit of storage under it. The vise is super handy, and I can work on it and stare out the window. So this is my second bandsaw, my jet one. Now it's a bit of indulgence to have two machines, but I can keep a thin blade on the record power for doing curves and a wider one for doing some nice straight rips on this, and not having to swap out blades is a real luxury. So I got this machine second hand over a year ago, and it needed a bit of work to get it back up and running, but now it runs really nicely. I've got it on a mobile base with casters, again, so I can roll it out to the middle of the room, lock it in place and use it. And I've got some more storage underneath it for some deeper Stanley cases. Above the window, I've got a little thermometer that's inside and outside temperatures. So you can see it's 3.6 outside and it's 13.6 inside. Fire's been going a couple of hours, and I find like 12, 13 degrees is a lovely working temperature. And we're back round to the door, and you can see got a bit of safety stuff. Got a powder fire extinguisher and a fire blanket. And actually on the shelf over by the stove, I've got a carbon monoxide detector as well. So that's it for in here. I think quite a bit's changed in the last year, and as I say, there's quite a few plans I have for next year of changing things, so there'll be a lot of videos and you can follow along with all my changes. If you're interested in any of the tools you've seen, link down below to my Amazon page, and a lot of them are on there. Anything else you can just ask in the comments if I haven't put it on that list. So the one thing you might have noticed in here though is there's not much wood or finishes, because I store all that in the garage. So let's go back out in the cold and have a look at that. Okay, so this is the garage. I've got racking on the back where I've got most of my wood and some boxes of supplies. I've got the Matiko table saw here, so I need to make a outfeed table for this, and then I can break down some wood out here. Random storage. Got the Evolution miter saw, which is useful for cutting metal, and if I'm ever doing any garden projects using any treated timber, I tend to use that. Above me I've got some more long lengths of wood as well. Got a few pallets and my breaking bar, and they're to be broken down next summer. And here I've just got some shelving with all my paints and finishes on, and then you can see some of my longer clamps that don't get much use. Right, glad to be back in here. It's far too cold out there today. So that's about it really. You've seen it all. So thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreons, and please subscribe for more videos.